Appreciate everybody being here today. I am excited to get back going. It's like did a few after we lost, and then it just kind of gets boring and I stopped. So here I am back, the Draymond Green Show, live here at the first annual film film festival, uninterrupted film festival. Is Maverick here? Of course, of course, Maverick didn't come see me speak. No, but I really want to thank Uninterrupted for the opportunity. I've actually been a part of Uninterrupted really since the inception of the company, and it's been a great journey. And to be here is just like a full circle moment. I got into this podcasting thing like a couple years ago, and it's been fun. And I actually, when I first got into it, I didn't really understand what it was doing. I was just like, I'm long-winded, and on the podcast, I can just speak, and no one can stop me, and my answers don't have to be short. And so I just continued on with it. And, then we were waiting, signed a deal with The Volume, who's been great partners. And we were kind of waiting on the traditional, I'm an athlete, let's find a host, and, it's the traditional thing that we've all seen. And my thing was, it has to be the right host or I won't start. And so we went for a while and we started to get further into the season, and I was just like, man, let's just start it and I'll host it myself and we'll just see where it goes. And as we wait for a host, we'll just go. And it ended up being a blessing in disguise because I felt like it turned into something that we hadn't seen. We hadn't seen many athletes taking their own show, running with it, being the host, holding the interview, speaking about the game, and all of those different things. And it's uninterrupted. That's essentially what it is. And so just to continue to take the influence from Maverick and LeBron and the blueprint that those guys have laid out. And I always have this thing of like, not trying to be so different and make things your own that you twist it and fuck it up. And so I try to follow the blueprint that those guys lay out, but be myself in following that blueprint. And here we are, the Draymond Green Show live at the first annual Uninterrupted Film Festival. So I have the honor of having a guest today, a guy who I've wanted to talk to for a while, has a chip on his shoulder larger than the planet Earth. And I love that, and we're going to get off into that chip and how it's judged and how it's viewed. But I'm honored to have this next guest, a two-time NBA All-Star, one-time All-NBA, NBA All-Rookie First Team, none other than the great Trae Young.
Hey, Trae Young, ice cold, Trae Young, ice cold, Trae Young.
Goldfish. Can I get the handful?
Sure.
What's up? Can we please get a better welcome than that? Jesus Christ. What's up, y'all? What's up? Thank you.
I want beach.
Welcome to the Draymond Green Show, my brother.
What's up, man?
Like I said, you're someone who I've wanted to have on the show for a while, and I'm happy that it happened this way, where we can do it live, we can do it in person, because I feel like you're raw, and everything that you've done, and the way you've come up, the way you speak, it's organic and it's natural, and I wanted to have this moment where it's just natural, and I'm extremely excited about this, so thank you for joining me.
I appreciate you having me, bro. I'm excited about it.
Absolutely. So, let's get right into it, though. Growing up in Oklahoma, number one, talk to me about the basketball culture in Oklahoma, because for me, growing up in Michigan, we all see Oklahoma, and what's the first thing we think? We all think Oklahoma Sooner football. Talk to me about the basketball culture and growing up in Oklahoma.
Well, first off, appreciate you having me again. But for me, growing up, like I grew up in Oklahoma, but like a lot of people don't understand. Like I'm a Texas kid. Like I was born in Texas. Like my dad played in Texas Tech, and I was born there, and I kind of grew up. I have a lot of family in Texas, so I think a lot of what is built inside of me is built from like my family roots in Texas, and even though I grew up in Oklahoma, I'm still a Texas boy at heart. So I just think like for me, I kind of stood out that way as far as like my competitiveness and what I like, how I thought every day and how I like attacked everything. It was just a different approach. I even played football like second grade till about eighth grade until I had to really give it up and make a choice. But I'm really a Texas boy. I mean, I grew up in Oklahoma, so I'm gonna claim that, and I'm always gonna ride for my state. But I got a lot of Texas blood in me too, so I feel like that's where I got a lot of that toughness from too.
And you definitely got a lot of that. Be careful, man. You may not be able to go back to Oklahoma and talk about you a Texas boy.
Nah, because I grew up. No, I mean, because trust me, everywhere I go, I rep Oklahoma. It's on my signature shoes. It's on my pages. It's on everything. I rep Oklahoma, but I think a lot of people forget. Like, I think that's a part of the reason why I stand out separately. I'm trying to add that type of DNA to everybody in Oklahoma. You know what I'm saying? But like that's kind of like how I was kind of my upbringing brought me to.
Now, that's incredible. Talk to me about you're growing up. You're coming up in the era where Blake Griffin goes to Oklahoma. Russell Westbrook's playing in Oklahoma. Kevin Durant's playing in Oklahoma. James Harden for a short stint playing in Oklahoma. Talk to me about the impact that had on you and having those guys in that state playing basketball at the level they were playing it at while you were coming up.
I mean, it was big for me. Like, I'll never forget I was a ball boy at the University of Oklahoma when I was in like 4th, 5th grade when Blake was at school. So I was a ball boy. I wasn't that specific game whenever Blake played Steph in college, and everybody knows about Davidson coming to Oklahoma. And I wasn't a ball boy that game, but that year I was ball boying too. So I had a lot of ties to that university even when I was back a kid. But Blake was a big role model for me, and then obviously when the Thunder came, it was like the biggest thing in Oklahoma for us. We don't have an NFL team, we don't have a hockey team, we don't have anything else. We do have an NBA team, so. But even before that, when it was Oklahoma City Hornets and Chris Paul was there, like before the Thunder got there, I was a big fan and a big admirer of his, and like so I've been a student of the game since back then. But when Russ and KD and they were rookies and second-year players in the league in OKC, it was like my eyes was focused on them and how can I be at that level, you know what I'm saying? So like they've been big role models for me from a distance ever since then. And so Blake, I mean, like you said, KD and Russ, I try to take a little bit from every one of those guys.
That's incredible. When I introduced you, I talked about the chip on your shoulder being larger than life, larger than earth. As someone who came through this league and had to have a chip, second round pick, undersized, too fat to play this position, too slow to play that position, too small to play this position.
Yeah, shit.
I had to have that chip. And so when I watch you, I feel like I can understand you a lot more than most can, because although you're a point guard, you're undersized when we start talking about the NBA. Talk to me about how important having that chip is and what it's done for you in your career coming this far.
Well, I mean, to be honest with you, I've been undersized my whole life. Like, seeing, like, I used to want to go play with my dad, and, like, he would go to the Y at, like, 6:30, 7:30 in the morning, go play, pick up with the older guys. I'd be 12, 13-year-olds and want to go play with those guys and just jump in and just play with the older guys. And so I've always played up. Like, even on my AU team, before I got to high school, I was playing up against older guys. So I was always a smaller guy. So I'm kind of used to that type of thing, but as I started playing my age and started to level out a little bit more, I was able to show my skills and be better. But I've always kind of like used that undersized, you're too small to your game to translate to the next level. That's kind of like a motivation, like you said, that chip on my shoulder. But I don't think about it too much anymore, because I know who I am, you know what I'm saying? But I definitely remember as a kid, being a smaller guy, being on the sidelines, waiting for my dad's team to lose so I could try to get on his team on the next one. Like, I just remember always playing up and being that smaller guy, so it ain't never been nothing new to me.
So that's interesting because what you just said, I try not, like, I know who I am. I try not to really have that anymore. And I think that's a very interesting thing because, and I'll talk to you from my experience, and I'm asking if yours is the same. So you come into this league an underdog, chip on your shoulder. I came in a little differently than you. I was the 35th pick. You was the 5th pick. So, but like I said, some of those similarities and the same things they were saying about me in a much different way about you. You use that chip every day to get you going, every day to push you past this guy. I want to destroy this guy in front of me. You use that chip on your shoulder. And while you're climbing up, everybody love it. Everybody's like, oh man, you see him? He has passion. Mm-hmm. You know, he don't take no shit from nobody, this and that thing. And everybody applauded. And then when you, and what it seems like to me, once you get to a space of you've had success as far as accolades, All-Star, or NBA, but most importantly, as we all know, people in the world, when they talk success, they judge success by money. Mm-hmm. So then you get the max contract. And all of a sudden, they don't really accept that chip anymore because they're now looking at you like, wait, you're not an underdog. You're making $200 million. Like, what you mean you're an underdog? And so now that very thing that helped you succeed, they're now trying to use against you. Has that been your experience? And if it has, how have you tried to adjust to that?
That's definitely, that's definitely been my experience from looking at it, from like what it is. But like, I thought we were saying like with Spider-Man, like with great power comes great responsibilities. Like, I think me getting that max contract came with a lot of responsibilities, and like for me, that's how I look at it. Like, no matter what someone else says about me or what they expect for me to do for myself or for my team, like nobody has higher expectations than me, you know what I'm saying, of myself and for my team. So whether I get the All-Stars or All-NBAs or whatever, or like I did get the max, like my mindset never changed. Like I want more, you know what I'm saying, and I know once I get that, what came with it, you know what I'm saying, the more scrutiny, the more the expectations rise, you know what I'm saying, when you get that type of stuff. So I understand that and I accept it, you know what I'm saying. Like I feel like if you're in my position, you have to either accept it or just turn it down, you know what I'm saying, because when you get it, it all comes with it. So I've had to learn to really just accept it and then try to move each day, the right way. So I just had to accept it for real.
With being the face of the franchise as you are, you've been the face of the franchise since you walked into the NBA, which is a tough thing. Most people have a chance to grow to that. You've been that from the beginning. Talk to me about some of the difficulties of that, because I think people just look at it and they think, it's just basketball. Like how you perform at 7 p.m. on Tuesday night, on Thursday night, Friday night. People have this idea in their mind of, oh, that's what a face of a franchise is. Talk to me about the difficulties of being the face of a franchise that most people don't even have a clue comes with that.
For me, being like the face of the franchise, it's like it was a lot tougher for me coming into the league. Obviously, being 19. When you're young, you're that face of the franchise, you don't necessarily know everything. And if you don't have a vet around you that's really putting that into your ear and how you need to move, how you need to talk to your teammates, communicate with your teammates, spend time with them, because that stuff goes a long way. And I feel like for me, I was able to learn thankfully through a situation where we were rebuilding, and so we weren't really expected to win. So it was a place for me I can go and I can really learn through the thick of things and playing through games and stuff like that. So I just I think people don't understand when you're 19, you're coming in, you're leading, trying to lead grown men. You 30-year-olds, 28-year-olds who have family, kids. You playing video games in your dorm room all year. Your freshman year of college, you just all of a sudden now you got to go spend time at dinners and nice dinners and all these things with these dudes. It's like it's an adjustment period. So for me, like, thankfully I was able to go through that adjustment period early on rather than now. Now I'm still relatively young and I'm able to learn a lot more. And I've had vets that came around like Rondo, like Lou Will, like Jeremy Lin when I was a rookie. He had been through Linsanity and everything about him and everything. So I was able to pick their brains and ask them questions. And so I'm just thankful I was able to learn through some struggles early on to be where I'm at now. And so it's supposed to only be better from here on out.
Speaking of rebuilding, I think you guys did something that most people didn't give you a chance or didn't expect. You all went to the conference finals, like really ahead of time in that process of rebuilding. Do you think that changed the expectation and narrative on you? Because all of a sudden you're rebuilding and you're leading this rebuild. And then you go to the conference finals, and now there's an expectation the next year. And the reality is, you're really still in that same window that you were in. You just had some success. Do you think that changed things for you?
For sure. I think that definitely like changed the outlook of our team and where we were supposed to go and where we were headed. Because we were on a track of just continuing to get better. We weren't the most talented team left in the playoffs, but we had some talented guys, you know what I'm saying? But we had guys that clicked at the right moment, and it happened. But going into the next season, obviously the expectations are higher because you went to the conference finals. We went further than what we were expected to be, and so if we don't get better as a team, like, everybody's going to be coming for us. Everybody's going to catch us, and so I think that's what happened that next year, being knocked out in the first round, but it definitely changes things. When you go that far, when you win championships, you're expected to win a championship the next year, or you ain't supposed to be knocked out in the first round. So it's like you have to learn through it and you go through it. That's definitely something that I've learned through the process of whenever you get that far, you're expected to go that same route or even further the next year. So I'm not mad at it because that's my expectations. I expected to go further that next year, and I felt down when we didn't. So I'm never mad at a fan of our team that feels that we should be better than where we were the year before, because that's my expectations too.
It's incredible. I have a question for you all. Do you think, I spoke about this earlier, I don't know, many weeks or months ago, about European players being judged differently than American players. Do anyone here agree, disagree? Nobody? Agree that Americans are judged harder, right? Okay, I agree too.
Mm-hmm.
I said all of that to say, Luka is incredible. One of the guys I absolutely hate guarding, like yourself. Great player. You've been all NBA. He's all NBA. You've been all stars. He's an all-star. Neither has won MVP. Both has led their team to the conference finals. Yet they have a playing game, which his team didn't make the playing game. Your name's being thrown around in trade talks. The day of the game, thrown around in trade talks. Have not heard anyone ever say Luka should be traded. Anybody else ever heard that? I've never heard it.
What happened?
With new Scope Squeeze mouthwash concentrate, add water, control the squeeze, control the strength. How many subscriptions are you paying for? Rocket Money finds sneaky or forgotten subscriptions.
But you've done some of the same things. how does that make you feel, or do you even think about that because you two are always compared because of the draft day trade, and so everybody's always comparing you two guys. Where is he in his career? Where is he? And the reality is, when you take a step back, you're very close in points. I think you probably lead in assists.
Yeah, I'm for sure.
Like, for sure. But the narrative out there isn't the same. Talk to me about that and just living that.
I mean, it's. To be honest with you, I don't even stress over it no more. Like I know the real ones get it for real. You know what I'm saying? Like,
fast,
I feel like for me, once I win a championship, it'll even open up more eyes to what I've really done and what I mean, especially to some of my peers that I'm compared with and compared to. So, to be honest with you, I have no hate towards nobody, especially Luka. Me and him we talk all the time. Like, we got a lot of love for each other, a lot of respect for each other. But I mean, I do agree with you. It's different agendas and the way people look at certain people is different. But to be honest, I don't get caught up into it. I feel like eventually people are gonna understand what it is and like realize that it's not that far off. Obviously, he's a really good player, hell of a player. But it's like we kind of do the same thing. He's 6'8", I'm 6'2", 6'3". Like we're different in size, but I mean he can play. Like I can play. You know what I'm saying? We can both hoop. So at the same time, that's just what it is.
I respect that. And speaking of which, I want to roll this clip from earlier this year. I went on Taylor Rook's show, and I said something about you. And I really appreciated the way you responded to it, because people get in their feelings about a lot of shit. I used to get in my feelings about Charles Barkley, so I understand it. I really do.
Me too.
But people really get in their feelings when you say something like sitting on this media side. And so I always appreciate the way guys respond to it. And I love the way you responded. But I said something, and it's right along the same lines of what you just said. So can we roll that clip? I personally think Trey has in his mind he's taken on this villain role. And he's bought into it, and he has dove headfirst in it. He's good enough to take it on and still play well and still be Trae Young and still be an all-star and be fine. But I personally think it's the wrong approach. So what brings me to this is, speaking about the agendas. Because, and I, by the way, when I'm wrong, I've been wrong before in situations, as we all know. I'll be the first to raise my hand and say I'm wrong. I don't need you to tell me I'm wrong. I'm the first to know, trust me. That's why I don't appeal technical fouls anymore. I'll be the first to tell you when I'm wrong. And I actually said this wrong here. I said you're diving into this villain role. And the reality is, I feel like where that all was birthed really was the series versus the Knicks, where everybody in New York Knicks fans are fucking delusional and miserable. And I love New York, so don't ban me from y'all city. But they're hard. They're a hard fan base. You go in the Garden, you hitting the shots, you bowing. Every timely shot you need to make, you making every play. And what I actually think now, and continuing to watch and continuing to pay attention to it, is you are very much so a showman. But yet that's been flipped, and again, talking agendas into being this villain. And I'll be the first to say it. Being a villain, it sucks. Like, it's no fun. But when it's up against you, you either fold or you stand up to it. You go into it. And so I've stepped right into it. And people have now made you out to be this villain when in fact the way you shoot the ball, the way you play the game, they don't vilify guys that do that. But they've done that to you. Talk to me about that. How you feel about that. Like, do you embrace it at times?
Well, like
Damn,
first
that
off,
is
like you
facts.
said,
Just
like
think about that.
because shit ain't really fun being a villain. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, I don't like in that video I commented letting you know, like I don't dive into that. Like I kind of feed off the crowd. Like if you were listening to the game in the 10 minutes left in the first quarter of game 1, the whole arena was yelling F Trey Young.
Bro, what
Like
the
2
fuck
minutes
is
into the
going
game.
on?
Boston. They said fuck me
Yeah,
too.
that's what I'm
I get
saying.
it.
So it's like, what do you want me to do? Like I'm just hooping, I'm playing. I ain't said nothing to the crowd. I ain't bowed. I ain't say it's quiet as F in here. I ain't said none of that yet. Like I just really played off of how they guarded me and how the fans reacted. Like I come out playing, trying to win, trying to put on a show, and I mean if the fans want to get into it, like with the Boston thing, like they started yelling
Oh
it in
my
game 5
God.
late in the game. So it's like I didn't say nothing to any Boston fans. I think they was all cool with me the whole time. And then game 5 when they were up 3-1, that's what happened. And then we hit the game winner, and that's why I'm looking at them. But it's like I really just feed off of the crowd. Like I really don't like being that way, but like it's been that way since high school when I was averaging 40 my senior year in high school, going to different
flex, very subtle flex.
but that's kind of what it was. Like I was going to other arenas and they was chanting overrated if I wasn't scoring, and people loved it, and then I was scoring and finishing the game off, and so that's just how I kind of was looked at. And then videos of highlights when I come back in the NBA, that's how fans just gravitate towards that, and then it's just what it is. But I'm not like that type of person. Like I'd rather just go out there, put on a show, have fun, smile, and get the win. So, but if it happens that way, like you said, I ain't about to turn down from anything.
So who is Trey Young?
I mean, really just a family person. Like when it comes to basketball, like I'm just so competitive. Like I've just been competitive my whole life. If you win, like I'm gonna make sure we run it back. Make sure we can play again, give me a chance to run it back. But I'm just super competitive, and in everything I do, and I try to bring my people with me, make sure my friends and my family is with me throughout the whole journey, and that's pretty much it.
Big bitch.
New father,
Yeah.
which I can relate to.
Yeah.
Soon to be married.
Next week.
That's fire.
Appreciate it.
That's fire.
Appreciate it.
Which I can also relate to. I've almost
That's
been
so
married
fire,
a year
bro.
now. Talk to me about having your first kid and what that has done for you as a man and as a basketball player. Because I know my son is actually here somewhere. There he is. What's up, DJ?
There you go.
I know for me, in having kids, it gave me perspective. Especially you come home from a bad game, you turn on your phone, everybody say you suck. You're this, you turn on the TV, you're the worst, you're that. And like you walk in the house, kids like, what's up, Dad?
Yeah.
What you been up to, Dad? You're like, all love. I'm like, wait, I guess I don't suck as bad as everybody said. Like, I must be pretty cool. But talk to me about just what having your first child has done.
No, like for me, like I said at the beginning, when I don't worry about like my height and my height when I'm playing anymore, like I don't focus on too much of the negative attention and negative things that are said about me or the false rumors that come out about me. Like I'm focused on my team and my family, and really my family first, especially with my son now being born. Like ain't nothing like it, you know. It's just especially having a son, like you want to make sure you're doing the right thing, so eventually when he gets older and he's seeing everything that you're doing now, it helps him become who he needs to be. So I'm just trying to focus on every day living the right way and making sure I'm a great role model, so whenever he does see this type of thing, whenever he gets older, he knows that I was doing the right things and that he can follow it. So
speaking of sons, role model, those words can only help me or make me think of the word legacy. You're soon to be on your third signature shoe, and you recently just started a podcast, which I think is incredible. Talk to me about those couple things and how those things can add to your legacy and what you leave.
Oh, it dropped
No,
tomorrow.
like you said, legacy is important to me, especially in my family. Like, me and my dad talk about that all the time. It's about building that legacy, and having my third shoe is so surreal to me. Like, just knowing, like, my favorite players growing up, like, having their own shoes, going to the stores, making sure I got those, so I went to the court and felt just like those players. Like, I needed to have that type of feeling. So to have my third shoe coming out
Bro, come
here
on with that
soon,
shit,
just
bro.
before the season starts, it's an unbelievable feeling. And then obviously starting my own podcast is, influenced by, guys like you. Those guys like speaking their mind and had certain things come out about them that's not really true, but you don't really want to go to the media because they may take it a certain way. So now I have my own platform where I can speak the truth. I can speak my mind. I can speak on what's real and what's not. And there's been times on my podcast where I said I messed up in certain situations. So I get on and I speak the real. So it's just a platform for me that I can do that, but also break certain news and certain things. So it's definitely a good space now that I have a place and platform I can go and I can just chop it up and speak the real for real.
I think it's incredible, man. When I first started this podcast, like, I did not realize the voice that it gave. And not that it's just like, oh, you start a podcast, you get a voice. Like, it don't work like that. But people knowing where to find you speaking, speaking on the topics that you wanted to speak on, covering the things that you wanted to cover. Like, it's been absolutely amazing. So I wish you well. If I can give you one word of advice, it's one of the most important things that I've done. Kyle Hurd is here, who I'm partners with, and Colin asked me, he was like, you have a day job. Why do you work like this? Like, you're doing all of these episodes, no matter what happens, you're doing these. And the reality is, it was because one thing stuck with me. JJ Redick told me when I first started the podcast, because I had tried it before, and I was so inconsistent. Like, I'll do a podcast, and then 5 weeks later, do another one. It's awful. Like, I don't know what I was doing. And he said, if you're going to do a podcast, one of the most important things you can do is deliver your content to your fan base, to your listeners, your subscribers, when you're supposed to deliver it. You may be off a day, you may be off two, but every week you have to give your listeners and your subscribers what they're looking for. Because if not, they're going to leave your podcast. And when they leave, they don't come back. They're on to the next podcast, and that's their thing. They're not going to then leave that podcast and say, let me go back and see what Trey's doing over here now. Once they leave, they don't come back. So it is very important. Like, we have very busy schedules. So if it's for 15 minutes, 20 minutes, making sure that my listeners and my subscribers get what they've gotten on a weekly basis. If I can give you one word of advice, it's extremely important. And to work this out. And so back to what Colin said, for me it was like, well, that's all I know. Like, as hard as you work at basketball, you have to work at the podcast. So the days that you don't want to get up and go to the gym, there's going to be days you don't want to do the podcast. But if you're doing it, you have to commit to it. Because then that's how you make it great. That's how you build your fan base. That's how you build the audience. That's how your podcast gives you a voice that can't be taken away. Because I've built a fan base that wants to hear what I have to say. And I've built that by being consistent and delivering them content that they want.
No, you've done it the right way. You've done it the right way. Trust me, we all following, so I appreciate that.
No doubt. And before we get out of here, I'd be remiss if I didn't speak on this. I've had two coaches in my career. Mark Jackson, who was absolutely incredible for us. And I've had Steve Kerr, who is one of the most winningest. Somebody help me pronounce the word.
People.
Winningest.
Winningest.
people in NBA history. And that's what I've had to learn from. It hasn't quite been that same path for you. Yet in being a franchise player, people blame. Oh man, Lloyd Pierce this. It's Trae Young fault. Nate McMillan this. It's Trae Young fault. Now it's Quinn Snyder, who I think is incredible coach, incredible basketball mind. Happy you'll have the opportunity to work with him. But just walk me through what that journey has been like and what you're looking forward to at Quinn. Because, by the way, we are who we say we are. And we are the narrative that we want to push. And so people try to push this coach killer narrative. Fuck out of here. Like, the people that push the coach killer narrative never had a coach. But they say you're a coach killer, which I don't quite understand. And yet, coaches are getting fired all around the league every day. But then people try to come label you as that. We're not rolling with that. That's ridiculous. But just talk to me about what that journey's been like and what you're looking forward to at Quinn Snyder.
This journey has been tough. Like, to be honest, I didn't even have very many coaches growing up. Like, every year, I didn't really have too many different AAU coaches. So, like, being labeled a coach killer was crazy to me. But, I mean, Lloyd coming in, he was my first coach. And having him, like, he was perfect for us. Like, we were a young team. And the thing is LP would tell you, he was brought in to develop guys. Like, he was the development guy in Philly. Like, was getting everybody right. This was his first job. His first day on the job was basically my first day on the job, too. So we came in together. I got nothing but love for LP. But a lot of people want to label it me versus him. Like, we butted heads a couple times in certain things, certain situations, but we always had respect for each other. And so people don't always want to label that part and mention that part. But with Nate, like, we got to the conference finals, and Nate McMillan was our assistant coach at the time, or he had taken over halfway through the year, and he wasn't even guaranteed to go further on. He didn't know how longer he wanted to coach. But we went to the Eastern Conference Finals, and we were winning, and it got him his juices flowing. He wanted to keep coaching us, and we were all excited in doing that, and we wanted to keep rolling with him. And then, obviously, he gets let go. I don't know if it was right after that next year or the year after, but people wanted to use me again as a crutch for that. And for real, like, we had a really good relationship to begin with. That's the only reason why he stayed and stuck around. So people labeled me as coach killer with two of my coaches in the league. Like, to be honest with you, I don't really feel about it anymore. Like,
let me tell you something, brother. You made Nate McMillan like an extra $10-15 million. But they say you killed him.
No,
that's a hell of a sword to die on. Extra $10-15 million. Bro.
Yeah, you got some money. But no, I definitely but I think Quinn. Hopefully, Quinn for me is my Steve Kerr. Like, I hope Quinn is the guy that we win 3-4 championships with. Like, I mean, that's my plan. Like, I don't see it further. I'm not looking past Quinn. Like, if something happens with Quinn tomorrow, like, if it happens, like, people gonna say it's me, but it's not. Like, I want Quinn to be the next Steve Kerr for me. So I've used and learned everything from all my coaches coming up, including LP and Nate. And so, with whatever anybody has to say, like, I know where my heart is and my head is. I got a lot of love and respect, and I've learned so much from both of those two. So I ain't got nothing but love for them, and hopefully Quinn is my Steve Kerr going forward. So
100%. And by the way, I bumped heads with Steve Kerr a million times.
Oh, we know.
People say, oh, you bump heads with this guy, so now he's fired, it's your fault. It's not true. You're going to bump heads. It's a very intense job. You have the coach and his star player. They're going to go at each other at times. That's what the job requires. We've seen that over and over and over again. It's not going to go away.
And you still fight through it. Like, y'all butted heads throughout the year, or something has happened. Like, you've seen it's been public, and then y'all find a way to get back together and go win a championship. Like, sometimes you gotta go. You can't. It's not easy. Like anybody who's been in this business, they know like winning a championship, getting past the first round is hard. Like so, winning a championship is at a whole nother level. So like it's not easy. Like so, I mean, obviously, like I salute you, all the guys, Brian, all those guys that be winning championships all the time. Like that's not hard. That's not easy. So I mean, when people say you don't have to go through anything, stuff like that. I mean,
I hope you don't
confrontation with
think
your
you no bully.
coaches and players, like sometimes it's good and it's what's needed to get better and push forward to be at the end.
100%. I tell you what, I look forward to you silencing everybody because there's no better way to silence all the noise than to win. And you've won in your career. No, you haven't won a championship, but to get to the conference finals, that's so hard to do. And now you know what it feels like. Now you know how to work towards that, which showed this past year. You know, you get in a play-in game, tough situation. What do? You come out of it right away. Team who ends up going on to play in the NBA Finals. No, I'm going to come to your house and I'm going to beat you. By the way, on the day that they say I'm going to get traded, you know, and that takes a special person. Like I said, but this will be it before we get out of here. Just want to know, one of my favorite guys in the NBA, I don't have a lot of friends in this league. I don't. Probably self-inflicted wounds, but hey, it is what it is. I also don't like a lot of people, but I got a lot of love and respect for DeJounte Murray.
Mm-hmm.
And traded to you guys last summer, just signed an extension, well-deserved. But, you know, that's pairing y'all up in this backcourt. Now, talk to me about what DeJounte has brought to the team and, you know, how that's going to be moving forward for y'all.
Man, he's brought a lot to us. Like, I mean, it's crazy. Fun fact, our birthday's on the same day. He's 2 years older than me, September 19th, so we already got a connection that way. But he's just a real dude. Like, what you see is what you get. Like, when you around him, you hear him talking. He talks about family. He talks about wanting to win, wanting to get better. I mean, him signing that deal for us now, I mean, just shows how much he wants to win. Like, it just shows how much he wants to. He could have signed next year and got way more. I mean, still a lot of money, but that's the type of person he is. He wants to win. He wants to make our team great. And I just know from us, like, we talk all the time. And so, like, we knew that it was going to be an adjustment period last year with two PGs who were used to having the ball in our hands. So one of us going to have to play off each other and play on the wing. Like, we got to learn that. So now we've been through a year. Now we're going to our second year together. We've kind of got some chemistry together, and we've been working throughout the summer too, and talking and texting. So I'm looking forward to what we got going forward, because he's a hell of a person before he is player too. So I'm glad he's on our team for sure.
Peak freshness means peak flavor. The strawberry poppy seed salad is back at Panera.
And when it's all said and done, we get to the end of your career. What will Trae Young be remembered as, and what does Trae Young want to be remembered as? Because those could be two different things.
Not on the top of my head though. Right now, like, what will and what is gonna happen is the same thing.
There go that chip. I love it.
But me, I pray and I hope that I'm just looked at as one of the best PGs to ever play this game. And I know if I'm one of the best PGs to ever play this game, I'm one of the best players, and I've won championships, and I've won certain things. Like, it all comes with winning. Like, I remember my AU coach telling me winning takes care of everything. So I remember being unranked and winning Peace Jam and becoming a top 3 point guard in my class. Like, I just know winning will take care of everything. And so hopefully at the end of my career, I'm looked at as one of the best PGs to ever play this game, one of the greatest players to ever play this game. And that means I've won some championships. I've helped some lives along the way in my communities and things like that. And I'm looked at as one of the best players for sure.
Y'all give it up for my clutch brother, Trae Young. Thank you, brother. I appreciate you.
Appreciate it. Yeah, brother. Appreciate it.
I really enjoyed that. Oh yeah, I'm headed out. I'm gonna wrap this up for y'all. I really enjoyed that. Like I said, I respect guys who get it out the mud, who got a chip on their shoulder, who it's all not lined up for you to succeed. And Trey, the challenges that Trey faced, that they'll never change. Like being that size in the NBA, like you're already a step behind. Like you already have so many uphill battles to fight, and to become the player that he's become, but not only become, continuing to grow into, I think is special. And I love when a guy is battle tested. I love when a guy have to go through some shit, and that's what he's had to go through. Like we discussed, people saying he's a coach killer, and talking about trading him on the day he's going into a playing game, and all these different things, and yet he just keep trekking along, getting better each year. It's hard to get better every year you come in the NBA. Scouting reports change, the way defenses are guarding you change, the way you're officiated change. Like, I think people don't realize officials are like, they're human beings. They have feelings. Their feelings may change towards you. You may not get that call you once got, you know, and those are all of the things that he's been up against, and that's just to name a few. And to watch how he's continued to go and continue to carry a franchise. It's not hard. It's not easy to carry a franchise. And he's doing it, and he's doing it at the highest level. So I'm honored to have him as a guest. I'm honored to come up here and host the Draymond Green Show in front of you all. I thank you all for coming out. Until next time, that's a wrap from the Draymond Green Show. Uninterrupted.
Women you meet are immoral. How are you going to act? You act morally, you get wrecked. So how do you act? Immorally. It's a race to the bottom. We have to fix society as a whole, and it comes down to even the most basic things. The most basic things like female promiscuity, the most basic things like men sticking up for their last name, the most basic things like men having to be too honorable and too proud to be out of shape or be poor or not take care of a woman. I'm not just talking about women, I'm talking about men. Any woman who's with me, her life is fixed. That is my job. I'm Andrew Tate. I would be embarrassed to have a girl say, I'm Andrew Tate's girlfriend, and have to work her job, unless she wanted to. She can do anything she wants. She's my chick. You can have anything. You run the world now. You're with the top G. Anything you want is mine. I'll take care of you in every single way, but you must take care of me. I can take care of you financially and physically. You must protect me spiritually. You must do your job. It's a race to the bottom on both sides. And when you have two genders racing to the bottom, and then a child is born, what do we expect from this child? Who's raising the child? The school? The TV? The internet? You trust these people? Look what they're injecting into them. So another thing that's very interesting. You talk about the 1950s, another thing that was different. In the 1950s, parents raised their kids. Who raises kids nowadays? School, internet, Twitch. How much time do you spend talking to your child compared to the programming they get from the Matrix? You're losing in terms of pure minutes. You're losing. You can't even control what your child sees in school anymore. You don't even know. And when you find out they do what they did in California, they're like, what? Most people don't even know this. You have children 15 years old, I've seen it on YouTube, arguing with their own parents, disagreeing with their own parents. The whole point of having children is to instill your values in them. I want my sons to be Emory Andrew Tate. They must think and act and be like me. And for someone, I've had people say to me, what if they're not? If they're not, they're not. That's fine. But the whole point of me having them was my lineage. That's the whole point of me suffering to raise them was my lineage. Why would I raise them to be anything other than what I believe I should be and they should be? That's the whole point of it, and I'm proud of that. I'm not going to sit and apologize for wanting my sons to be Tates. I'm not going to apologize for it. I don't care what the school wants them to believe. They believe what I want them to believe because they are mine. But all of that's gone. So then we also talk about what's different between the 1950s and today. These kids are being raised by people who aren't their parents, and whoever's raising them clearly ain't teaching them anything good. Teaching them, if you feel, act how you feel. You can't tell men that. It's dangerous. You can't tell men to act how they feel. You can't tell men to not have emotional control. You can't tell men to cry anytime they want. Because men don't just cry sad. They cry angry. They cry very angry. You don't want that. You have to teach them stoicism. You have to teach them all of these things. And it's all gone.
So, okay, so let's stay on this. This is actually a very interesting topic we're in, from 1950s till today. So you're saying if somebody is a Tate, if somebody is my wife, if somebody is my son, you're going to be doing this. I'm not going to let a teacher X, Y, Z. Okay. Well, 85, 90% of America doesn't have the money to be able to put them in a private school.
Correct.
Where right now is June. If you go on YouTube or Twitter and look at Pride Month, everywhere kids are coming to school. Parents, teachers got these pride stuff going on all over the place. Parents are like, look, I'd love to put them in a private school, but even some private schools are doing it right now. In Florida, there is a private school. It's known one of the best private schools out there. You know which one I'm talking about? I won't mention it. Starts with the letter P. People should know what it is, but they already know what I'm talking about. We have a party at our house, okay? And baseball. My son, so he's got a baseball. All the players are their parents. I'm talking to the parents. So, hey, meet one of the girls. So, what school do you go to? Oh, well, I was going to such and such school, but I'm going to such and such school. Oh, really? Tell me why. The dad's like, yeah, it's just, reasons. He gets uncomfortable. Yeah. I said, no, really, tell me why. I'm curious. Well, I don't really want to get into that. I said, are you uncomfortable because it's political reasons? Well, yes. I said, well, let's just say you're safe to say it here. Yeah. He says, am I fully safe? I said, what do I need to tell you for you to know you're fully safe? You're fully safe with us because you know my position. Yeah. He says, fair. He says, we took him out because they started asking my daughter to do X, Y, Z with pride, to write on this, and she wrote a letter, a paper that was opposing the opinion, and she failed the class because her opinion didn't match whatever they were saying, and boom. Now, so I said, what's going on with that private school? That school's $50 grand a year per kid, the one that's grooming.
50 grand a year per kid.
There's an exodus from this school to go to other schools. So, one, some parents don't have the option, Andrew, to say, you and I are not worried about it. I'm not worried about it, but the people I'm leading, they're worried about it.
Absolutely.
How do you fix it if you're that person without the resources you got?
And that's another thing that's difficult, because I have two answers to this question. I have the arrogant answer about the answer that I think
I know the arrogant answer.
Yeah. I'll give both. The one I actually believe is helpful. This is where I think things like we discussed earlier, like the Klan comes into effect, right? Imagine you had 18 kids from 6 or 7 parents, groups of parents, and everyone's living together. The family unit, the energy and the ethos and the merits of that particular clan is going to be so much stronger and difficult for the matrix to penetrate and break. Their best friends are the people they live with. The kids live with the other kids who believe the same as them. The parents all agree. When you're a clan, you're far more difficult to attack and assault. So I would say the first thing I would do if I was a parent of normal income, I would try and find other parents who agree with me and try and find other people who are ideologically sound, and I'd make sure that our children are friends and they spend the most time with each other, and I would try for us all to go on holidays together, and I would also put in conscious effort to try and deprogram. I don't think many parents say to their kids, what did you learn today? I've been doing that not to check on the kid. I've been doing it to check on the school.
Well, let me challenge you what's going on. Sure. So let's role play. Go ahead. Ask me a question.
What did you learn at school?
So today we learned that, Dylan Mulvaney had the courage to stand up for her beliefs, and she's a hero because she's out there and she's helping a lot of other people that are going through challenging times be able to stand up for themselves.
Okay.
What are you going to tell me?
I would say, why do you think they want you to believe that?
What do you mean that?
Why do you think they want you to believe that? They've told you something.
Yeah.
I don't believe that's true. What they've done is lie to you. Why do they want you to believe that?
Perfect. So say you now convince me I'm your son. Yeah. Great. I go to school tomorrow. Yeah. Ready? Correct. Now I'm in school.
Correct.
Hey, Miss Jones says, hey, Patrick, so tell me, so what did you think about this? You have to write this paper. Well, let me tell you, last night I was having a conversation with my dad, and my dad told me, why do you want me to believe that? Yeah. Then comes the phone call. Yeah. And then now you're cornered as a parent, and now what do you say to the school? Say I'm the school, role play.
Correct. And I can't role play it by myself. It's difficult. It's difficult. And this is the exact point why you need a clan, you need a network, you need other parents. If I was a parent and my child was going to public school, I'd be extremely interested in finding other parents whose kids are going to that public school. Yeah, you have the PTA meetings, etc., but there has to be a degree of strength in numbers. It's hard. You can say homeschooling, that's the cop-out. But the other answer, the more arrogant answer to this, is actually an answer I gave after the subway incident. You know, in New York with the subway where they choked the guy and he died.
Yep.
I get asked all the time, Andrew, what would you have done in that scenario? It's a very difficult scenario. I mean, we can argue whether he choked him too long, whether he was trying to protect people. There's a bunch of arguments. But it's very unfortunate. This goes back to what I was saying earlier. You can no longer just be the average man, the average citizen. I insulate myself from so many problems with money. I know this is a terrible thing to say and people aren't going to like hearing it, but it's true. I never have to worry about some garbage on the subway. I never have to worry about, do I stand up and defend this woman or allow her to get attacked because they're going to put me in jail? I never have to worry about some fight on a plane because the ticket was $40. I never have to worry about my kid going to learn something they don't want to learn. I don't have to worry about any of this because money protects me, right? So when I say this, like if I have a girl and she's saying, all you do is work, you need to be a dad too. I'm being a dad by being rich. That's me being a dad. That's how I protect you all. I'll work 18 hours a day every single day. That's me being a dad more than almost anything, because that's how I protect you and everybody else from all this insanity. It's the only way to do it, because you need to be flexible.
We're fully on the same page. I'm on the same page as you. I also, when I made the money, so I get to pick and choose.
Yeah.
What I'm talking about
fuck?
is a message.
Oh my
because
God.
the reality is not everybody is going to go out there and make the
Correct.
10 a month or
Correct.
whatever you make. It's just not going to happen.
Correct.
The market's not set up that way.
Correct.
Quite frankly, not everybody brings that kind of value to the market.
Correct.
To garner that kind of pay. You know that, I know that.
Correct.
Okay, how can you and I help the audience that is sitting there, great citizens,
Yep.
net positive.
Yep.
They take their kids to church on Sundays.
Yep.
They work their butts out. They're doing their best to keep their marriage together as hard as it is.
Yep.
They're paying the bills for the kids. They're making 80 grand, 120 household income.
Yep.
They can't talk like you and I.
You're right.
What do they do?
You're right.
Let's give them the solution.
You're right. So if I was them, here's what I would do. I would make sure that my family had core parameters and core beliefs that we believed in, and I would fact check everything my child was told against those core parameters and core beliefs. So let's say one of our core parameters and core beliefs was hard work. We believed in hard work and dedication. When they came home and told me something about body shaming or the fact that models can change, I'd say, does that agree with the beliefs and the merits that this family has decided we're going to operate under? Yes or no? I would have a framework, I would have a gate which ideas have to penetrate through. Every idea has to be fact-checked against a gate, a parameters of set values that was stuck to my last name. Honor, courage, discipline, hard work, whatever those parameters are. And I'd say to my child every day, what did you learn in school? I'd listen to it and I'd say, does that align with our value on this? And also, I'd make this very clear, because this was done to me as a child. I'd make it very clear to my children that they are exceptional. I think every single person is exceptional for different reasons. We talk about normal children, normal families. That doesn't mean they're not an exceptional individual. They can still be an exceptional person. Who knows what they might become?
Sure.
I'd say you're an exceptional. You don't believe what everyone else in that school is told to believe just because it is said. You're an exceptional person, and we have a framework we operate under because your last name is X, and our framework is this. Does that align with hard work and dedication? No, it doesn't. Why are they trying to tell you that? Because they're trying to attack the framework which you need to be successful. My father said to me when I was young, my father had many, many quotes, and I use them all the time, but one of my favorites was, I allow manipulation to find out where my enemy wants me to go. And then I use my mind to break the trap and punish the perpetrators. That's the exact line I will tell my child. I'll say, they've attempted to manipulate you. We've allowed it. I allowed you to go to school and listen to this. Why were they trying to manipulate you? Where do they want you to go? They want to take you away from discipline. Yeah. They want to take you away from hard work. Now we're going to use our minds to break the trap. We now know what they want. My father explained this saying to me, and he said why it was so important, and it's true. If you don't allow them to manipulate you at all, you don't know where they want you to end up. You might get tricked another way. You might take another road to the same destination. You allow the manipulation. Tell me what you want me to believe. Tell me what you want me to understand. Allow it to manipulate me all the way to the end. I see the end goal. Yep. This is what you want. No. And this is what I would teach my children. Explain. Your time in school is going to teach you some very important things that you need to know. And they're also attempting to psyop you and trick you and poison your mind. And we are going to discuss daily, built within our family framework, within the code of our last name, to see which are true and which are lies. It takes work, like everything else on earth. It takes work, and I know it's hard. Parents are out there, they're working, they haven't got time, their kids are on the internet. It's difficult, but you have to put the work in because you are almost fighting an enemy for the minds of your children now.
You know what I think? You know what I think is, that's great, very good feedback. But, so I lived in Iran, and in Iran, you'd go out there and you'd say, so hey, listen, people asking about religion, don't talk about it. Are we Christians? I don't know. Talk to my mom and dad. You don't need to answer the question, guys, because there's that fear. So parents are teaching kids to not talk about their values and principles. The element that parents fear what the school's going to say to them and not give the kids the best grades, because imagine you got a 10th grader or even a senior. If you really say what you believe in, that teacher gives you a C. You don't get the A to get the 4.3 GPA, to get the scholarship because you can't afford it. You have to be like constantly like this. So parents are telling their kids, look, whatever I'm telling you, don't tell them. I think it's bigger than that. I think a part of it is this is the first time we had stats and I don't know how long this was, where kids no longer, kids graduating high school are not valuing a four-year college as much as they did before, okay? That is a threat to the establishment because they can't be a control, right? Number two is there is an element, when I'm watching this video with these parents yesterday in Glendale, and this is where I grew up, this is my street. I grew up Broadway and Verdugo, right next to that post office. I'm 200 yards away from the high school is where I grew up, and I lived on Doran for a couple of years before I went to Wilson Junior High School. And I'm seeing these parents upset, like, how is this? This is common sense. Leave these kids alone.
Yeah.
I think there's got to be an element of those parents coming together in a form of a strike, I believe, to say, if you want the tax-funded money that's being given to your school district, hey, we're not coming. We're going to decide to do schooling together, and we're going to use this place or this facility and that facility, because they have to feel the pain. They cannot do that to the kids. So my only messaging with what you're saying right now, number one rule is what? Go start a part-time income, make an additional $3,000 a month so you can send them to the private school that they teach them right values. Okay, that's number one. Two, I can't afford to do that. Three, this is the other option that you got.
Yeah, and you're right. And Trump said it in his book, The Art of the Deal. He said, if you're not prepared to walk away, you can't negotiate. And that's the same with absolutely everything. If there's never a bottom line in which you say enough, then you can't negotiate. You have no negotiating position. We talk about this when it comes to children in schools, but this is also very applicable for relationships. I've had girls who say to me, you know what, I was watching TV and they were saying that, I don't know, X, Y, Z. And I would say, listen, I take care of you. I love you very much. I'm going to make sure you have everything you've ever wanted. I'm going to make sure you're physically safe. That's why you're not going to go walking home alone drunk. It's not because I'm a misogynist. It's not because I dislike you. It's not because I'm controlling. It's not because I'm manipulative. It's because it's for your safety, and your safety to a degree is my responsibility. But I saw on the news X, Y, Z. If you believe the news over me, then go find another man. You have to be prepared to walk away, right? This is the bottom line of it. This is what I personally believe. These are my values.
With you.
These are my values. And this is what I personally believe. If she says, well, no, I'm not listening to you, and I stay with her anyway, well, then it's over, isn't it? And then she's going to do whatever she wants.
But not everybody can do that because you've earned the right.
Of
Again,
course.
The proposition you're offering is so high that they have to sit there and say, I can't lose this guy.
Completely. And this is where we go back to the original point about how difficult it is to be the average man now. It's becoming more and more difficult. We're in a position now where you have a racetrack, and you have Ferraris and Nissans. And yeah, we can discuss how the Nissan might beat the Ferrari, but the truth is, it's hard. It's very, very hard. If I was a man and I was starting all over again, I would do the same things I did. I would wake up and say, okay, this game is extremely difficult. My best chance is to level up my character to a point where the game becomes easy. Because life does become easy at a certain point. Yes, now I'm in a very unique situation. But before this situation, I had only 3 problems in my life. My health, which I take care of, my woman, who I take care of, and money. That was it. If I made enough money, I had no other problems. If you're broke, you have lots of small problems. Yeah. The car doesn't start, the school fees are coming up, whatever. We need new clothes for the kids. I had one problem to fix. If I fix my one issue, everything else is fixed. You get to a point in life where someone goes, oh, we've got an issue. How much? Just tell me the number. I don't even want to know the ins and outs. Just do the transfer, make it go away. So, yeah, as a man, I think you have that imperative to understand that the video game of life as a man is exceptionally difficult, and especially as you get older, as you progress with the levels, it gets harder. It's getting harder and harder. You need to level up your character. This is what amazes me when men go, I struggle with motivation. How can you struggle with motivation in the modern world? Are you asking to just lose? Are you asking to just be erased from humanity? Yeah. Are you asking to be invisible? How can you be an 18-year-old man and say, I don't have the motivation to train as hard as possible and get as rich as possible? You are born to lose if you don't have motivation at 18. In the modern world, as competitive as it is, all those girls, those 18-year-old girls you go to school with, are talking to some 28-year-old man with a yacht somehow. And you're sitting there lonely, and you don't have motivation? You must be out of your mind. The only way to win...
Have you lost Medicaid or CHIP? At healthcare.gov, 4 out of 5 customers can find a quality plan for $10 or less per month with financial help. Enroll in a plan today at healthcare.gov. Paid for by the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services.
This game is to become as powerful as possible. It's difficult, and it's getting harder and harder, and this is why I teach the things I teach to men. You can't just be Joe Schmo and win anymore. Those days are over. You have to be something else.
The challenge those young men have, though, it's sometimes not even their fault. Why? single mother, raised by a single mother. They've been indoctrinated and they heard the future is female a million times. Next thing you know, they're 18. They kind of have this victim mentality. It's almost not even their fault some of these times. We're all in our late 30s, early 40s. We've grown up. I played football in school. He's an athlete, bodybuilder. Obviously, you're a kickboxing champion. We've had coaches. We've had people kick our ass. We didn't grow up with participation trophies. We've had our asses kicked. We've gone through shit. Now we are the shit. A lot of these young guys playing video games, addicted to porn. They grow up with a phone in their hand, raised by women. They weren't raised how we were raised. How do you teach those kids, though?
Well, that's why they don't. That's exactly what they don't want me doing. That's why they're trying to put me in jail. Because I've managed to become. I'm not for a second bragging, but the size of the movement that I created. I turned up in Slovenia. I don't know if you've ever seen that video with the Bugatti where everyone's going, Tom, gee, that's the capital of Slovenia. I can't even pronounce it. Ljubljana or something. I've never been there before. Slovenia, where even is it? Like, I can barely find it on a map. I know roughly where it is. If you want a guaranteed way to get in touch with me, you could find me on about how complicated masculinity is, but I broke it down to those. You could find me on Minect. And this is what I was saying earlier on about how complicated masculinity is, but I broke it down to those 3 basic tenets, because even a teenage boy can understand. If you get enough money and enough power and enough powerful friends and enough sexual access, that you're going to be able to build yourself to a man of. I can cry.
Oh my God, my head
I'm
is
qualified to cry.
Beating,
when you're an
hurting.
18-year-old boy, you shouldn't be crying. You should be focused, and you should be an animal, you should be training, you should be working hard, you should be listening, you should be going to coaching. I'm now at a level where I'm allowed to cry. I understand all the different elements of being a man. I understand the tapestry of masculinity fully. I can cry if I decide to. I've qualified for that. But before you get to that point, you have to go through all the hard shit. And the hard shit I've broken down to the 3 basics. And I think that's why they're coming to attack me so heavily. Because genuinely, because of what you just said, I'm telling kids things. And especially, people often ask me, especially Matrix Media, they say, why did you get so big? I'm telling the truth. I'm telling the truth, which every man knows is intrinsically true in his heart, because God has instilled him with a basic degree of morality of right and wrong. I'm saying things to a 17-year-old boy, and he's going, he makes sense. I get it. Everything I was told so far just didn't quite click, but this does. And that's what they're so scared of. And I agree with you. You're completely right. And this goes back to, once again, we were saying about last names, family values. The number of times I was told I couldn't do something because of my last name, I think that was my whole childhood. My whole childhood is, well, you're a Tate. Dad, I got an A. Of course, you're a Tate. It wasn't even, it was just like, duh, of course you got an A. But what else are you going to get, a B? What, you a dummy? That's who I was my whole life. I had standards exacted on me. And I've even heard, like, psychologists, I have a big problem with psychologists. I don't like them as a whole. I'll tell you some of my scenarios. I've had conversations with psychologists. There's a couple good ones, but there's a lot of them who I don't like. And their ideas, oh, you raise children, don't put standards on, don't put pressure on them. How are they going to perform without pressure? Do you have pressure to perform in your business? Because I certainly do. I certainly do.
Pressure makes diamonds.
You think I didn't have pressure to perform when I sat down with the BBC? They tried to set me up? You think I didn't realize instantly? Okay, war. She's ready. You think there's no pressure? You think there's no pressure when they try and stab you to death? There's no pressure in life. You're going to raise a child and say, give him no pressure, give him no standards, so he can just be a kid. And what's he going to mold into? Absolutely and utterly not. Life is pressure, especially as a man. You need to have these exacting standards. That's how it is. My whole life was a pressure to perform to my last name. That's all it's ever been. I don't know how anyone's raised any other way. So yeah, it's crazy. It's a very difficult problem to fix. I agree. It's a very difficult problem to fix. But I think it starts with baseline things. And this is also why I feel like I have such a duty to act. I'll give you an example. If I could lie right now for $10 million and nobody would find out, nobody, I still couldn't do it. Because God would know and he'd punish me sooner or later. I really, truly believe that I would pay the price of that lie. I truly believe it. I think if you're a man and you're growing up and you're saying, how do I act? What do I do in this scenario? What would God want you to do? Tell the truth. You'd be amazed how far just telling the truth will get you. In any situation, I can give you benign situations that don't even matter. Your girlfriend caught you. Oh, and no, and I barely know her. Just say, yes, sorry. I love you. I'd love to stay together. Well, you did this. Sorry. I'm leaving. Okay, goodbye. Next day she's back. You just told the truth. It could have gone on for weeks. She could have kept spying. She could have called the girl. All this drama. Just sometimes in life, you just man up and tell the truth. That's why in my current scenario, when I was saying earlier,
That's the only way you're free, by the way.
yeah, completely.
The only way you're free.
Truth shall set you free.
It shall set you free. When I was saying earlier, the incompetence of my enemies is scaring me, and I don't know exactly what to do. All I can do is just tell the truth all the time. I'm going to tell the truth all the time. I'm going to say what I mean and mean what I say, and I'm going to tell the truth, and that's who I'm going to be. That's what I think is the best thing for me to do in the current scenario. But we're not even instilling that in children anymore. We're not even telling children how important it is to not lie.
Well, but that's also part of what you're talking about. I want to show you the stat because the guy sent it to me, and then we'll put this for the audience to see as well. Percentage of gun ownership from 1972 till today. Same thing.
Exactly the same.
If you look at the numbers, pretty much the same thing. So what's been the biggest difference is a lot of these things that we just talked about. By the way, that question you asked from 1950 till today, the candidate that's talking about this, again, I went back to politics, RFK is talking about this. And I think it's a very important thing to talk about because it's making people go research and see for themselves and to ask the question, what really did change? We've had this all the time. What became legal? Why are we adding all these pharmaceuticals to, kiss the tape? What else would it be outside of that? So that was the foundation, which I agree with you. Household values, principles, kids, men, raising them better. What else would you see as a challenge from an outside? And then I got part two of the question for you.
Yeah, it's
anything else where you say, XYZ would also, by the way, I love the way you say Nissan and status. I just love the way you pronounce those two words, man. For a second you said Nissan, I'm like, what is Nissan? And then I realized what you're talking about.
Well, I remember when I was young, other people's parents would tell me off. Do you remember that? Did you ever get that when you were young?
Of course.
Other people's parents would come up and you better not. Random adults would just tell me off. I was scared of every grown-up. Every grown-up had a degree of authority. Just random adults. We can't do that anymore. There was just a degree of community that's certainly not really lost. And asking me how to bring it back is difficult. It's very hard. And that's one of the reasons why I've become so religious recently, because I think that God is definitely part of that. And that's also the reason I want to live in the clan I live in. That's why it is. My brother can tell my kids off, no problem. If I came home and Tristan's like, I just scream it all, I'll be like, good. I trust him in his judgment. Good. Scream at them then. Good. They're children. Also, sometimes, you know what? Kids need to be yelled at sometimes. Why not yell at them? What are they going to do? Life's hard. Life's hard. The way we pander and baby children, especially, is insane. I was talking about this the other day. I was talking about how I have a pet peeve, and one of my pet peeves is painkillers. And I was being typical me, and I was going over the top. But I was saying, I was not arguing, I was discussing with this guy. This guy said, have you got any aspirin? I said, there's no aspirin in my house. And he said, why? I said, brother, you are not facing 1% of the life difficulties I am facing. Think about it. No government's trying to lock you up. The Matrix isn't after you. They're not trying to frame you. Nobody wants you dead. When God finally gives you a tiny headache, to give you something to show you're half a man, a little bit of resilience, you pussy out and take an aspirin. You can't just have a headache. Just have a headache. And not only just have a headache and don't mention it, because I don't care. So don't even talk about it. Nobody needs to know. Just have a headache and be quiet.
I have a headache, Twitter.
Yeah. What do you want? You want therapy? You want sympathy? Nobody cares you have a headache. Shut up. It kind of goes back into my original conversation when I was saying I don't like psychotherapists and all their garbage, because they're constantly, I don't believe in... I've had conversations with therapists a few times, and my biggest detractors and enemies say, you need to talk to a therapist. The last conversation I had with a therapist didn't go very well. I said I didn't believe in most of their field and that was garbage. And she said, why? And I said, because there are some boys who don't drink alcohol because their dad was an alcoholic, and there are some boys who are alcoholics because their dad was an alcoholic. You have the same scenario and different outcomes. So I don't believe in it. And she said, well, no, it's not an exact science, but we have generalized rules that we can follow, that lead to patterns of behavior. I said, but I'm not a generalized person. I'm an exceptional person. So everything you've learned and everyone you've ever spoken to and everything in your books does not apply to me, because I am exceptional and I'm smarter than you and I've done things you could never do, and I'm a world champion athlete and richer than you'll ever be. So nothing you know can possibly apply to my mindset. So why are we sitting here talking?
What was the reaction?
She just wrote things down on a piece of paper. Probably called me an arrogant piece of shit. Probably said he don't like this guy.
Complete narcissist, egomaniac, who knows what's going on
But
there.
I'm right. Yeah. There's nothing you've learned in your book that applies to people. It doesn't apply to me. It doesn't apply to me. So I don't want to hear it. Don't care. Don't care. And this whole idea, this goes back to the thing about painkillers. That's something I didn't just make up. That's from my dad. I remember being at my friend's house, and I remember him saying I need an aspirin, and he had an aspirin. I remember just being a child and coming home and saying I want an aspirin. I remember my dad going, for what? You're a kid. Shut up. No, you're not popping pills. And I remember my mother going, it's only an aspirin. No, there's nothing wrong with you. Your body is going to go through the same damage it's suffering, if any at all, whether you feel the pain or not. Man up. Get over it. It comes down to the details. It's like if you're a professional fighter and you get to a certain level, your coach, once you've been training for 10 years...
I ain't gonna lie, Tate. I ain't gonna lie. If I have a headache, I'm gonna get rid of it.
Your coach is honing you on the details.
I ain't gonna lie. Oh my God, my head is hurting right now, bro.
The tiny things. Mayweather does 1% better than the guy he beats. It's the tiny details. So simple things like denying a child a painkiller when you know there's nothing wrong with them. I'm not saying he had surgery and he can't have painkillers. I'm saying he walks in, there's nothing actually wrong with the kid. Say no. It's all the tiny little things you need to do to instill pain. You need to instill that resilience inside of them. I was in jail, and I could just hear
I
crying
still did my
and
workout
sobbing
this morning
every
for
so
sure.
Everyone's in there having a mental breakdown.
For sure.
And the scariest thing about my position, and I think it's the position for most people who end up in jail in Romania, because of how the legal system works and the extensions, and you don't know how long you're in there for. You don't know. It could be a year, could be 5, could be 3 days. That's what messes with your brain. You're like, do I prepare for 6 months of this? Do I prepare for 5 years of this? What's going on? Nobody knows. Everyone's in there having mental breakdowns but me. Why did I not have a mental breakdown? Because I've had too much crap happen to me too many times and never took the painkiller, never took the easy way out, never asked for the therapist, never been a bitch about it. This is how life works. There's no way to the top besides the difficulty and the pain and the trauma. I'm really flabbergasted that there's men out here who still believe they're going to somehow become something of importance without it. Of course she broke your heart. Good, good, good. Good. I'm tired of people complaining and crying about it. That's the game. That's the life. So yeah, it comes down to tiny things, even down to painkillers, smallest things. Another thing my dad used to make me do. He used to just make me drink water. I remember being a kid and it would upset me. I'd be sitting there playing chess, whatever. He'd say, go drink 2 liters of water. And I'd go and I'd get some water and I'd start drinking it and say, I'm not thirsty, I don't want to drink the rest. And he'd stand there and make me drink all 2 liters. Now I understand it was just compliance. 2 liters of water is not going to hurt me. Not going to hurt me. Do I really need it? Who knows? I drank a liter. Why do I have to drink all 2? Because he said so. That was the household. If I tried to rebel, I really don't want it, I'm not thirsty, you're going to drink that water. That's it. And it's all these tiny things that instill discipline in you. Over a long enough time frame, drink water. Yes, sir.
Bring that to compliance today, though. Bring that to compliance today. Say your dad is around today, and you're 12 years old, and you're living in Ohio, okay? And your dad is teaching you compliance. And your dad says, okay, so now teacher in school tells you what to do. He's right, he's this, he's that. What is the angle you're taking at that time?
Yeah, and that's another thing. Because back then it was much easier to say you shouldn't get in trouble at school.
Right.
Much easier.
Today's kind of like a badge of honor almost.
Almost.
Stand up.
Almost. And it is hard. But my loyalty was always to my last name above anything else. This just depends where your loyalty lies. I think that everyone, when we talk about, we link back into religion and stuff like that, I don't think there's something.
Thanks very much. Kevin, how did you get in that groove offensively in the first half?
Well, I'm just playing off my teammates. They're doing a great job of finishing and kicking. I'm not trying to force it.
Everyone's religious to something. You have to decide what is you're most loyal to above everything. You have to put these things in hierarchical order. In our last talk, I said this. A lot of people hold beliefs and they don't know where they got them from or why they hold them. There's people walking around who believe things and they don't know where it came from or why they so strongly believe it. They don't even have any personal experience to link it to. You truly believe 2 + 2 is 5. Why? Oh, because it just is, and the news. No. What happened to you that made you believe? Nothing's even happened to you, and you believe this with your complete core. You've been psyoped. I know where my loyalties lie. I've had them in order. I know who I put above others. I absolutely not only know. And sometimes in the most harsh situations on earth, there's going to be scenarios in life which are completely and utterly, they're unexpected and they're exceptionally rare, where you have to make very difficult choices. But I know my hierarchy. I know if I was in a position, in a hypothetical, where I had to choose between my brother or my girl, there wouldn't be a, oops, what do I do? I know the choice.
It's never been the case between the two of you?
It's never been the case between us yet. But if it happened, I know it would be. I've had girls try and give me the line. And I've had girls do it. I've had girls say, if you're going to live with your brother, then it's going to be
No,
weird.
that's not what I'm asking. What I'm asking is, has a girl ever come in between you guys since you were kids?
Never.
Never.
It's impossible.
That's because of the value taught down.
Completely. It's absolutely impossible.
So the hierarchy of compliance and respect at that time, last name was first.
Yeah.
What would it be today? If you're raising kids today, what is number one? Is it God?
It is God.
Is it me second? Then who?
No, it is God. It's God first, and then it's the last name and the legacy of my teachings. I think it has to be God first. I think it has to be God first because God is the only thing that can resist this insanity.
Yep.
What is happening is truly evil. This is not some different worldview. No, it is evil because it is dishonest. Anything that is dishonest must be evil. It is a lie. All of it is a lie. It is constructed deliberately to be a lie. It's deliberately constructed to alter the minds of people to believe in lies. It is evil. So it has to be God first because God is truth. And I believe if I have children who put God first and then put respect for the last name and the things I've taught them second, it's very hard to corrupt them. How are you going to truly corrupt these people? It's going to be very difficult. And that's what I always try and do. And that's how I was raised. I was raised in a Christian family. I was actually raised religiously. Then I thought I was smart when I became atheistic. Because, yeah, there's a lot wrong with the world. And obviously I've already apologized for that and understand I was completely wrong. But respect for my last name, even to this day, is still there. And that's why I say to my girlfriend, if we were walking down the street and 10 men approached with machetes, I'd just have to die. I can't be Andrew Tate ran away. I just can't. I can't be Andrew Tate ran away. I can't do it. That's the bottom line.
If you're living in this clan, right? You're living here, your family, Tristan's family.
Yeah.
You're raising your family.
Yeah.
Muslim, Islam.
Yep.
Your brother's still Christian.
Yep.
How's that going to work?
Well, there's one
if
God.
God's first.
There's one God. I truly believe there's different paths to God. I truly believe that. Like I said, I'm not a religious scholar, but it says in the Quran, people of the book. Even a Muslim man, I'm allowed to marry a Christian woman. They're of the book. It's only atheists that the Quran has a problem with, because there's something morally corrupt with them. But if you're a person of the book, a person of faith, we're not even says inside the Quran we're not supposed to convert you or insult you. We're not here to insult you or correct you. There's one path. There's different paths to the one God. I truly believe that. And another thing I'll say about clan living, in my experience, I think that men quite often get along in those scenarios. If anyone is hearing the idea of this and love the idea of this, but they feel like it would be argumentative or would be problems, I think that comes from the women. I think it's when women don't like each other, or the woman's in the man's ear. You're too bad with the guys. I think the women are more against it than the men for some reason, unless you have a very strong frame in the relationship. I don't have that problem, but in general, the men get along. The men love it. I think it's quite firm and quite rigidly installed inside of the basic psyche of men. We like that. Men feel best in a gang, in a group. It's why we charge at the gunfire. When we're with our boys, it's when we feel strongest. It's why we go out and drink and party when you're with your guys. There's something inside of you just feel like on fire. I think men have that. A lot of the time it doesn't seem to work and it breaks down because women can be unhappy in certain scenarios. But this is why, especially in some ethnic communities where the gender roles are more specific and defined, where the man is in charge and the woman does this, they can all live together in peace. It's much easier for them. Like I said, I grew up in a town full of Muslims. They'd have 10 families in one house. The women cooked, cleaned, looked after the children, looked after their man. The men all worked, made a bunch of money, a bunch of average-ass jobs, and they were all millionaires in 5 or 6 years.
So let me ask this other question while we're on this topic. That was a good question, by the way, Christian dynamic and Muslim dynamic. When you're saying there's a lot of ways to get there, you know, there's a religion called Baha'i. It's an element of Muslim. Mm-hmm. Baha'i is like how Mormonism to Christianity, and Baha'i believes there's 8 ways to go to heaven. That's the philosophy of Baha'i. My sister, her husband's family, are Baha'i, great people. But going back to this, okay, impact. Let's think impact. If a person's watching this content, most of the people that are watching this, a portion is going to be those that are haters, that just want to find, like, poke at the argument to find, you see, I told you, fine. But a lot of people that are also watching this, they're probably wanting to make impact. They want their life to have meaning behind it. That's who's watching this show today, right? Okay. So I can't be a president, but I want to make impact. I mean anybody that's watching this. Because Putin says 8 years, another guy comes, and the guy with the briefcase shows up. Okay, cool. Well, if you were in the States, and you're saying president wouldn't be how to make an impact, but let's say there is a kid who's 20 years old, 18 years old, 25 years old, has so much drive, it's unbelievable. Ambition at the highest level. Who do you think has the biggest influence to make positive change, like real change? Is it the person with the money? Is it the person with the biggest mic? Is it the person that goes into politics? What is the best way to have the biggest impact?
Yeah, so I think the world has always only ever been a battle for influence. Even if you look at the current battlefield, Ukraine is next door, it's 5 hours drive away. The battle in Ukraine is not just about tanks and trenches and grenades. It's a battle for influence. Who influences the people within this territory? Who is in charge of the thinking, the language, the mindset of people within this geographical area? Every single battle, every single pitched battle, every single argument, every single debate has always been a battle for influence. If you have influence, you're an extremely powerful person. All of us here are some of the most powerful people in the world. How many millions of people listen to us? We have massive influence. And I think you can have influence at the ground level. You don't have to be a famous podcaster or famously well-known to have influence. I would argue that those Romanian grandmas who gave me my food will remember me for the rest of their lives. I would like to believe I gave a positive influence and a positive impact on their lives for the rest of their life.
Hey, do you ever walk into a room and completely forget why you're there?
Totally. Do you ever feel like no one knows who you really are, and if they did, they'd completely reject you?
Not really.
Oh.
What my glasses. Duh. Can't forget.
I believe if you go through life and you're genuinely a good person, and you try your best to be good to people, and you're honest, and you shake hands, and you don't lie, and you're on time, and you work hard, and you're good to everyone who's good to you, I think you'll have a massive influence. And I also believe, I truly believe that God is extremely giving. There's the saying, goes around, comes around. Completely true. But I would say it comes from God. God is keeping an eye on you, and he's paying attention to you, and he knows the kind of person you are and the kind of things you do. And I don't believe if you're actually genuinely a good person all of the time, that you're not going to get some goodwill back to you. Look at my scenario. If I was being a piece of shit for years with all these chicks, I'd be in jail. I'd be in jail. I could have never seen this coming. But the fact I was nice, paid their taxi home, bought them food, looked after them. Are you okay? I know we broke up. I'm sorry. I know it hurts. I just did it. I was nice about all of it. Here I am. I'm fine. I could have never seen this Matrix attack coming. It's amazing how what goes around comes around. It's truly amazing. If you're good to people, if you're generous to people, if you're helpful to people, you'd be amazed how much influence you can build up. I say this to people all the time. I don't think if you're a hardworking person who is honest, who shakes hands, who tries to learn, who does what they're supposed to do, who has a good heart, that you're truly, really not going to be able to get what you want. I think the universe is absolutely and utterly giving. When I see somebody who says they want something and they don't have it, I don't even think they truly even want it. You can have anything you want in the world. When a guy goes, I want a six-pack, then why ain't going? If you wanted it, you'd have it. You'd like it. There's a bunch of things I'd like that I don't have, but I don't want them. Everything I've ever wanted, I've got. I've never wanted something and not had it. We all know what we're talking about here. There's things we'd like. I'd like to be able to figure skate. Not enough to go learn to figure skate.
It's a weird look if you figure out, although that other guy dancing like the way you dance is doing a pretty good job.
Bottom G,
You've seen this guy?
He can figure skate.
That guy kills the dance.
Yeah, he's good. But
your doppelganger.
But if you truly want something, you're going to absolutely not have it. So when it comes down to influence, I think you start at the base level, at the grassroots level.
What if this guy's got, like, you know, for example, like, you know how when you were 20, were you this driven?
Oh, absolutely.
Okay, so when you're 20, who did you look at and say, I can do it as good as him, if not better?
My coach, because I wanted to fight, and he used to beat me badly. Everyone used to beat me up when I was young, and I wanted to be the best. So I used to go into the fight championship.
Okay, how about communication? Who'd you look at? Were you always a good communicator? I can see you being a great communicator since you were 14 years old. I
was pretty good, yeah.
Okay, who did you look at and say, that guy's good, but I think I can, you know, do it better?
That's a good question. And I think that,
you know what I'm asking.
I know what you're asking. I don't know if there's one particular person I took nuances from, because when you're a great communicator, you know how to be serious, and you know how to make people sad and angry, and you also know how to make people laugh. There's different people who can do lots of different things.
Who was that? Was it somebody that was multifaceted like that?
I think it was a lot of different people, and I also think that...
Did you pull from comedy as well, or no?
Certainly did, but I was also extremely self-critical. I think that's where a lot of it comes from. I'll watch this podcast back 15 times. I will notice every single time I made a mistake. Just then I said I'll watch twice. That was a mistake. I will watch this back 15 times, and I'll identify every single error. I have an email list, and I sign up, and I get words of the day. I get 5 or 6 new words a day, which I try my very best to memorize. It's harder than you think to memorize 5 words a day. but I always try to make sure I have the most interesting vernacular I can possibly have, a wide vocabulary, so I can be very specific with my points. The reason I actually did that, I keep talking about my dad, but I'm his son. I have the same name, Emory Andrew Tate III. He was Emory Andrew Tate II. My father was a linguist for the CIA. He spoke Russian and German and Spanish and English. And I think I've told this before. Back then, when they needed someone who spoke Russian, they would take a Native American and teach them Russian. Nowadays, we have a bunch of Russian-speaking allies. You can go to Estonia, Latvia, Lithuania. They're all NATO and just get a Russian speaker. Back then, they taught my dad Russian, and he held the Air Force record for the fastest assimilation of a foreign language. When he died, a guy sent me an email, sent me a message saying, "You don't know who I am, but I worked with your father in the Air Force, and he had the fastest assimilation. He learned Russian in 2 weeks." Crazy. And I remember saying to my dad, "Will you teach me Russian?" He said, "Boy, you don't even know English."
What the fuck?
So what do you mean? Because you don't even know English. And once he sat me down with a dictionary, I was like, "You're right. I don't even know English." That's why I've lived in Romania 7 years. People say, "Why don't you speak Romanian?" Because I don't know English yet. I need to finish the first job before I learn the second. I don't know English. There's a bunch of words I don't know. I can't speak how he spoke. So I don't have time for a second language. Yeah. Also, another thing I found really interesting, Putin speaks English. Have you ever heard him speak English? No. If you want to speak to Putin, you speak to him in his language. You speak to me in Russian. And I reply to you in Russian, so I cannot be misunderstood or misconstrued. I don't make a fool of myself. You can't get me on some vernacular trick. I speak my language, and I also prefer that also. I speak English, that's what I speak. If you want to speak to me, you speak to me in my language, so I will win the debate, always.
Who do you look up to outside your dad?
I look up to lots of people.
I'm talking specifically younger age, not today. I'm talking 16, 20, 25, that age. Not today.
It's a good question. Because I always believed in trying to take the best parts of individual people and then amalgamate them. And I know you want a name, and I can't think of one off the top of my head, but I would look at people who I didn't even respect, but they'd have one particular thing about them. I thought, that's good. It could be somebody I didn't even like, but he dressed well. I think you just have to be perspicacious and look at people, and there's something you can learn from absolutely everybody. And just try and adapt it all. I'm not saying everybody should be clones of me. For everyone's individual, right? But there might be some things about me they find inspiring that they may adapt and take on board, and then they'll find some things from other people. But learning to speak is something I understood from a very young age how important that would be. That's a superpower.
Okay, so let me go back to the question I was asking, where I'm trying to go with this. Ooh. So I asked the question, I said, imagine the 20-year-old that's watching this, that's saying, "No, Tate, don't give me the answer for anybody can create, contribute to society. I'm not that guy. Talk to me like I'm 1 in a million. Talk to me like I'm 1 in a million. So if I'm willing to give 20 years, 30 years of my life to one way to go out to make true positive impact in America, my country, in the world, what should, don't talk to me like everybody else. What the standards are. What should I do? What angle should I do?
Okay, so first things first, you need to be worthy of respect. And you're going to be worthy of respect through having things which are difficult to acquire. So first things first, the basic things, you need to be very focused on trying to make money. Because people listen to you when you have money. They just do. Secondly, you need to be in fantastic physical condition. Because when you're in fantastic physical condition, it cannot be bought. It must be earned. People know that. When you're in, I don't know about you. If someone walked in to sell me something and they were obese, I would not trust them the same as if they were in fantastic physical shape. Because I'd say, I don't think you have dedication and heart. I don't think there's something about you that I just wouldn't trust you the same. So fantastic physical condition and money is the first thing. The second thing, whatever your ideas are, you need to learn how to communicate them. Speaking is a superpower in and of itself. You need to become a fantastic communicator. You need to be comfortable in all realms of communication. You need to be persuasive. You need to be comfortable arguing. You need to be good at debating. There's a lot of people out there in the world who have ideas that they can't even project into somebody else's mind. How are you going to rule the world with that? How are you going to get your ideas out there and make an influence if you can't make other people understand exactly what you think? That's the first thing. Second thing, once they understand exactly what you think, you need to make them agree with what you think. These are two different skills. It must be practiced, it must be learned. If you're 20 years old and you want to change the world, you need to be having endless debates. Endless. Without resorting to name calling, not on Twitter like a dummy, in person. And you need to come across in a way that people agree with you. We can go back quickly and talk about the red pill. The difference between me, when I talk to girls on these panel shows, and panel shows is, when I'm done, all the girls want me. Watch them. Watch the shows. I say the same thing, and by the end the chicks are in love with me, as opposed to saying the same thing and the chicks thinking I'm a dickhead. That's the difference. I project my ideas and I make them agree with my ideas to a point where they're like, texting me afterwards. I'm not saying anything different, it's how I'm communicating it. You can catch more flies with honey than hurting people sometimes. So you need to be good at everything. You need to have a Swiss Army knife with tools. I know when to be intimidating or aggressive. I know when to come across as obtuse. I know when to come across as exceptionally open-minded and easy to understand. I know when to come across as understanding. I know all these things. This all has to be practiced. And a lot of it is, communication. I would say, if you're going to say to a 20-year-old who's truly exceptional and driven, I'd say you need to become a master communicator. Because once you can do that, you can do anything. And that fixes all the other problems, right? You talk about making money. If you're a master communicator, you do fantastic in sales. You'll kill sales. You'll absolutely destroy sales if you're a master communicator. Not many people know this, but I used to sell windows. You know the old school knock on the door? Window sales. I did window sales for 2 or 3 years, and I'd say this is one of the hardest jobs you can possibly do. And I would always recommend a young man, if he has some time to waste, to go sell windows. And the reason, it's fantastic, because I'll tell you why. It's the hardest one to sell because, 1, nobody wants them. 2, they don't know who you are. And 3, even if you convince them that they need windows, after them not knowing who you are, then they go to all your competitors and then it becomes a price war. It's a nightmare. It's the hardest sales job. If you're selling a Lambo, at least they want the Lambo, right? Nobody wants glass and plastic. They already have windows. So you've got to find a way to sell them these windows. How do you do that? And that's where all this master communication comes in. And it's so many subtle little things. Being a good salesman is not necessarily being a liar. It's not being a trickster. It's just understanding what's going to make the person believe and understand what you say. If I walked in and said, would you like new windows? And they essentially said, no, we don't need new windows. Our windows look fine. I would say, but what about the security aspect? While looking at their 3-year-old child. And they'd sit there and go, what do you mean security aspect? And then I talk about how we had the Lock 5000, and their locks are easy to break, as if glass isn't glass, it's all the same anyway. And you'd end up selling the windows. You have to find the triggers in people. There's another thing people don't understand about me and my message. Sometimes I sit here and I say things that piss people off, because that's how you trigger people to make action. I have often written emails or done videos, especially to men when I want to help men, to piss them off. You're a loser. You're a dumbass. Andrew, why do you mean? Because you're not going to go to the gym unless I tell you you're a fucking loser. And you are a loser, and I'm not lying to you. You are a loser. The emotional trigger you need to get up off that chair is the fact that you're not important, nobody cares who you are, any girl you're ever in love with I could take, and you're insignificant. And when you die, nobody's interested. That's your fault. You could have been something else. You did that. You failed. It has to be done. You have to be a master communicator. And sometimes that involves also insulting people. It's all a massive tapestry. But to answer your question, the 20-year-old, he needs to become a master at communicating. But also to be a master at communicating, you also need experiences worth talking about. You have to live a life. You need a degree of wisdom. And wisdom doesn't always come with age. It comes with life lived. I had a guy message me. This is a long time ago when I used to reply to my own emails. Too big now. But he said, I don't have any stories. My life's boring. I said, bro, where do you live? He said, Madrid. I said, bro, ride the train from Madrid to St. Petersburg. Ride the train from Madrid to Vladivostok. Do the Trans-Siberian Railway. It costs you like $300. He said, oh, but what if I get robbed? Exactly! That's exactly the point! And what if you get robbed? Now you have a story. Maybe you'll die, maybe you won't. But you have a story. Don't bring your watch. Have you got a Rolex? No. No one wants to rob you anyway. Don't worry about it. You're a brokey. Get on the train. There has to be that degree of risk to even have a story. Because when you have a story, then you can communicate the story. You can't be an empty vessel either. So when you say you're telling me how I build this 20-year-old into a super soldier. Yeah, he has to be a master communicator, but he also has to do things which are risky. Risk has value intrinsically linked to it, intrinsically. This is why people, when you do risky things, people want to hear the story. Your coolest stories involve risk. Something went wrong, this could have happened, I almost this, I made it out. Without these risks, you haven't got it. So I would say to this 20-year-old, do what I did. Get in the cage. Get in the ring. Knock someone out. Get knocked out. Train hard. Fighting will teach you everything you need to know about life. You'll learn everything about who you truly are. You'll learn if you're a coward or not. You'll learn everything about perseverance and hard work and dedication. Everything about being underappreciated. You learn everything about fear. You learn all of it. You learn everything about people. You win a fight, check your phone. Lose a fight, check your phone. You learn all about people. You learn all about them. You learn all about women. I learned so much about women through fighting. When I had a fight coming up and I was weight drained and I had barely eaten in weeks and I'd lost all this weight and I had a world title fight and I'm fighting a guy who might kill me and she's complaining about the toilet seat. I learned all about women. And you learn a lot about life through these difficult processes and paths. And there used to be for men like a rite of passage. In most societies you had to go through something to become a man, from a boy to a man. But that thing was always difficult. It's always been difficult. Now you have to self-induce it, self-inflict it. But if you're going to be a boy and never bring on that self-inflicted rite of passage, how are you going to ever become a man?
It's great feedback.
Let me ask a question about this. I love what you said, especially, number one, you're a wordsmith, you're a linguist, no doubt. I mean,
I don't know English yet, bro.
Yeah, you're still working on your English. You know, you've got the kickboxing belts all up over here. I would argue, I've never seen you fight, but I would argue that your linguistic skills are better than your fighting skills. I'll let you judge that.
I'll take that.
I totally agree with you that the way that you speak to a man is way different than the way you talk to a woman.
Yeah.
You can tell a guy, you're a loser, get your fat ass in the gym, and a guy would be receptive to that. So, I can't tell you how many men come up to Pat, dude. What was Andrew Tate like? What was Tate like? Tell me about Tate. Tell me a Tate story. Dude, that guy's so cool. He's such a badass.
Connect is an application which allows you to take a minute to connect with influencers from all around the world. My name is Andrew Tate, and I'm available to speak directly to you on the net.
I'm no longer interested in just random chicks. I want a woman who I know would wait for me if I did 10 years. That's what I want. That's what I find interesting. That's what I'm in love with now. I can't be in love with a random chick. Also, once you get to a certain level of fame and influence, you're no longer winning the exchange. I feel like a lot of men like going out there and pulling girls because they feel like they won. Haha, look at this hot girl I got. Because if I go to the club and get a hot girl, oh, okay. Me, the famous millionaire, the most Googled man on earth, got a hot chick. Who really won here? Who pulled it off? She did. She'll brag, or rap, or kiss and tell, or ask for handbag. Like what did I win? Sex? Who cares? It's uninteresting to me. I don't want a child with her. I don't want a family with her. I don't want a future with her. So why do I even want her at all? I'm really beyond all of that stuff. So now, it's kind of funny. In jail, I got thousands of love letters from women. Thousands. I got thousands of love letters from women in jail.
Did you read them all?
I read every single one.
Yeah, but you have time, but you went through all of them.
All of them. Thousands of love letters.
Craziest letter you got? What's the craziest letter you got?
A lot of poems. One had drops of blood on it. She did a little cut. Lots and lots of love letters. Lots just saying that I'm the last man. They've been in love with me. They watch all my podcasts, and they were with. One of them said she was with her ex-boyfriend. He started watching me. Then she started watching me. Then she wanted me, not him, and got rid of him, and all this craziness. But I didn't trust any of it. Is it real? Is it an agent? Is it a psyop? Who's she? Is she crazy? What if I speak with her and she says I did something to her? What if 13 years later she contacts the BBC? Garbage.
That would never happen.
I don't talk to any new chicks. Same as I don't have any new friends. I don't talk to any new chicks. No new girls.
That's what I thought.
Zero.
So let me ask you. The idea of going through a lot of girls when you're younger, do you think a man needs to go through that, or do you think that is a form of a weakness that holds you, that you're a slave to it?
Right. So that's a good question, and it's a fine line because there's arguments on both sides. However, I think in all scenarios in life, experience is always going to be valuable. No matter what it is, you need to have experience. If you're inexperienced to anything, whether it's hunting, figure skating, girls, you're going to suffer.
You're pointing it at him. You're saying like insinuating.
Sorry, I know. He told me figure skating, that we made fun of it earlier, but
technically Patrick.
Oh, sorry.
We're talking about
figure skating. You need experience, and experience is exceptionally important. Also, as a man, especially when you're young, you're going to get your heart broken a bunch of times. Some bigger, older, richer dude's going to take that chick, and you need to get used to that pain. So you need to get through it. So I do think it's a necessary part of being a man, but you don't want to be led by it.
It was over well before the final buzzer.
I'm versed enough. And also, another thing I would like to say is the reason you need to but date lots of women when you're younger, so you have choices.
Define the two.
Yeah.
Which is more important, date or sleep, in your eyes?
I feel like you don't really. I think that sleeping with a woman, you learn more about them. It's a closer relationship. So I'd say probably sleep with X amount, not crazy amounts, but I would say that. Okay, let me give an example. If I go to the supermarket and pick up an apple, and it's the only apple I've ever eaten, can I really say if it's a good apple or a bad apple? It's the only apple I've ever tasted. It might be sour, it might be terrible, I don't know. Whereas if I try 10 apples, I can tell the differences between apples. So I say, what's a good apple, what's a bad apple? I think you need that degree of experience, because sometimes you'll be with a woman and go, yeah, she's great, but if you're not experienced enough, you realize she really isn't all that great, and she actually treats you like a dickhead. Whereas if you've been with enough women, you can always reference back to that girl who actually was really good to you. And you'll probably mess it up because you're young and you're dumb. We've all done it. All of us have that girl we had who was perfect when we were young, and we all ruined it because we're stupid.
Who was that person for you?
Can't say names.
But no, not names. I'm not asking for names. But I have mine as well.
Yeah.
But I'm like, I feel like when I watch you and you're going through your for example, so I don't know what kind of movies you like, but there's movies where it's redemption or vengeance. Like, I don't know if you watch Gladiator, 43rd minute, he walks up to the house, sees his wife, sees his kids, like, oh my God, I'm going to tear you apart, right? And you watch that over and over again, or Taken, or Man on Fire, or some of these movies that are just putting that energy in you, right? So, girl that breaks your heart, and to produce the energy to say, watch who I'm going to be in life. For the rest of your life, you're going to brag about the fact that you could have had me, right? And then comes to a point where you're like, okay, there's not much more I can do. She's already knows what she missed out on. Now what? But for me, go back to you. I'm curious. How bad of a breakup was it? How bad did she break your heart?
Yeah,
I know you're you know.
I think lots of men have gone through heartbreak. A lot of men have, and I wouldn't say that I've gone through any heartbreak which is particularly worse than any other guy. What I will say